your computer audio. We will just.
Instructions. I have specific instructions. So good evening. It is 6 o'clock on August 7th, 2024. And I call this meeting to order. And so here's the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So do we have any deletions, additions, amendments to the agenda?
I have in the first readings, I have two additional policies that Amy gave you physical copies for. So
Okay.
that would be policy GBEC. And policy GBED. Will be added as first readings.
Okay.
To the agenda.
I will, we approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, okay. Any community comments? Not today. It's never what?
Think of something, Steve.
Business finance reports.
Nothing to report. We're early in the rollover. Sherry just came in case you guys had questions.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh.
just in case.
Miss me.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I don't see on here is the approval of the minutes. That's supposed to be in.
It's at the end.
Oh, it's at the
very
end. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, administrative report questions and announcements.
Yep, it's actually just me, so we'll write to superintendent since we haven't even started school and they really aren't reporting back till next week, so. Gave those folks the night off. We really a couple things that I have to report on. One, those who, I don't know if anybody was able to make it, but Jonathan was actually our candidate for the housing, so he got his house.
Hey, awesome. Congratulations.
All moved in.
Ah, yeah, how is
Yeah,
it?
so with our partnership with Rooted Homes, so congratulations to Jonathan, that's a success and, you know, there's still an opportunity potentially, as we move forward to maybe look at another unit. If that works, we'll have more conversation on that as a board. We approved 2 units the last time, but we can talk about that in our work session and, you know, make sure that's where we keep wanting to go as far as how that goes, but we're excited to have that partnership and have success, at least moving through it.
Is
It
that,
sounds like.
is that second one tabled or is it still active? If someone stepped forward and was interested?
I believe we would need to start a new process. I think we're waiting for the interest rates hopefully to be lowered, and I think that was the snafu before is. It was getting someone pre-qualified at the rates that were coming through at the time were a challenge. And
Right.
so I think that if the rates subside, that we could re-engage. And again, this is something we'll continue to reach out to staff and survey and work with Rooted Homes on. Doesn't mean we have to. We had the option to do 2. We did 1 because it's what developed and we could do it.
I guess the question, is that second one still in existence if someone stepped up?
I
or
believe,
not? Because we kind
I
of,
believe that, and I'd have to double check with Woodlands, but I believe that's still on the table.
yeah, as a possibility.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll re-engage about that. I'll follow up with Rooted Homes and with Woodlands and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if the interest rates are lower, you would have had a lot more
Yeah,
interest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the challenge.
Yeah.
So,
That's excellent.
Park and Rec collaboration, we gave Jen the keys, they're working on it, we're also working on some things, the infrastructure that we had to fix, like the locker rooms. Had some broken fixtures, things that we needed to get fixed, so we're in the process. A slight change in how that's operating. just as a note, again, it's just the way it is. What we discovered is that if we sublease to multiple agencies, we would have to get county approval for each additional leasee that we had come through there. Call it a loophole if you will, but if the Park and Rec calls it a community center, they can sublease to multiple agencies and it's a community center, as long as it meets the guise of a community center. So we've expanded the lease with Park and Rec, and they're going to be subleasing, for example, to the childcare provider. And right now we're working with the city on that same scenario with Treehouse Therapies so that they can potentially get out and support mental health in the community. So working through that had to take a different track based on working through the county and the city and the planning system. However, moving forward, they got the keys. They're I mean, Park and Rec is our primary tenant anyway. And the childcare fits under that without a question. The real conversation is continuing whether Treehouse meets that community support. We argue that mental health support does, especially because their primary billing is Medicare and Medicaid, so it's more of a social service. But we're working through that. So we hope to add that too soon, but it just meant we had to change our tracks with how that's structured. Still providing some services for the community and use the facility. So
And SPRD was okay to be on the hook for more responsibility or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were, I mean, we had talked initially about them just leasing the whole facility. And they were apprehensive about.
I remember that.
It was before anybody stepped forward and said, yeah, we want to do lease stuff. We had confidence that we could figure it out. So they didn't want to overcommit. And to some degree, since we already had a couple of agencies on the line, they're like, yeah, we can do it. Well, so it's, I believe it's still going to work out to be a hub for service for the community as we move forward. So that's the update with that. And, you know, if you read the Nugget, they got some really good news about the park development side of it, that the city's giving them a healthy grant. And I think that'll spur that kind of movement forward as well. So
yeah, my understanding is SPRD will vote for award the contract next meeting, which is next week, and they hope to be finished by December, the end of December.
Yeah, with their development outside, right? Yeah.
And then, so second semester move-in potentially, is that what?
I think they're moving some groups in right now, and then I think they're phasing in some of that move-in, yes. But I believe because they don't want to move kids in the middle of the year, they're looking at the childcare to start the school year, both the lease space for childcare and their program, they want to start in our CWE in September.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
What is your thought on moving admin over to the SPRD facility? You guys over there?
I think it makes sense to have us there.
Mhm.
This is a great building and I really have enjoyed it. I think though, the proximity to the road and being nowhere close to any of the school services now, doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's gonna be a question for the board, be a topic of our work session, which is another one of those discussions. So our work session on the 21st, the two agenda items right now are district asset conversation, right? Workforce housing is still on there and making superintendent board goals for the year. So those are our three topics right now.
Okay.
So if there's any other topics that anybody else thinks we need to discuss during the work session, and again, that's just the open time to have that discussion, right? Any direction has to happen in a regular board meeting by the board. This will just be time for us to have open dialogue about it, but not make any decisions. And then if the board wanted to make a decision about a movement forward with something, then that would come in the next open session. So, but those are the three discussions that I have on the list right now.
Okay, I mean, that building potentially will be empty.
Yeah.
by mid-year.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Something to think about.
Yep.
Back to school night is, or back to school day. The faculty show up and stuff.
oh, so our first day for staff is the 20. Yeah, Monday the 26th. We have our, we do it on, we let them get in their building on Monday and do their stuff and have their building stuff. So the district-wide one is on Tuesday the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the elementary school?
Oh, well. I think we haven't picked a place yet. We usually do it at the high school commons. We probably should do it there, but I'll get to my elementary school report and tell you why I have some nervousness. So things are going great, mostly. So last week, what we discovered was a part of the fan under one of the hoods for our ovens wasn't working. It has to be fully functioning before they can test the fire. So it pushed back our fire testing. So the piece supposedly is gonna be here at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And they're gonna be, so really, we're at the point where all the final inspections need to happen. We have two that are the big ones. One is the fire system, the other one is the elevator inspection. And so they're both scheduled right now. And with those, we believe we'll have a final inspection done on the 23rd and not have any issue. Right? But if there is a hiccup with any of those, if something doesn't pass and needs to be repaired, then that could throw that date off. So, and the code enforcers have been pretty responsive, and we don't know that that's gonna be an issue, but we may end up having it at the high school commons like we normally do, just because it's a bigger space, and I'm not sure, quite honestly, if our new space is gonna be big enough for our entire staff. I mean, we have 165 folks that show up. So it's a big group, and we spread it out. We are trying to figure out a time to do a tour of the facility for folks, which would be everybody. And we can do tours. It's open for staff to get in on the 12th and start unpacking and doing their stuff. We just can't serve kids and families like we would on a typical school day. We can do trainings, we can do setup, we can do everything else in the state the building is right now. We just can't be open for business until we get the final inspection. So we're okay. There's no hiccup right now with us moving forward and getting ready for school unless something fails along the way. So
That's scary.
yeah.
Are they still working on other things?
Oh, they're still working.
Okay.
They're still working. Yes.
Awesome.
Got the paving down. The other part is we can't get final approval, right? And the striping is happening next week, but until all your ADA marking is happening as a public. So they just finished paving, the striper's coming in Monday. So we'll get all the parking lots assigned, all those things for code enforcement. So, we're coming right up to it. So, and I think we're seeding the field next week and starting that and the sprinkler system, trying to get a good 6 weeks of, grass growth before we hit the more dormant time frame. Hopefully we have an Indian summer, it'll help. So, yeah, we're coming to it. I saw playground equipment showed up, so that's good.
Right.
So we're gonna focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
So the 23rd, and then the day of return is the 27th, is that what I?
20, I think it's Monday the 28th.
Monday is the 26th.
26th, there we go. Yes. 26th is the day that staff will be in their buildings. That's our mandatory in-service, right? Our elementary school teachers get 3 days paid to move in. So they'll be in there from the 12th to whenever doing their move in. And then the first day for all is on the 26th. And then our staff, all district meeting will be, usually we start at 8 in the morning on Tuesday with all staff. Do our years of service, some small PD, and then get folks back in their rooms, getting ready for the kids. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's There we are. So Tuesday, the 27th for you guys, if you want to show up. Right now, we'll send out where it's gonna be. I haven't sent anything out yet because we're waiting to see where it's gonna be. But I think just because of the size of our staff, it's probably gonna be at the high school commons because that's our biggest space. So, and then we'll organize tours for people if they want to. A lot of people have already been in it because they helped move. Right, a lot of our staff have already been there because they helped, we all kind of pitched in and helped move, so they've been able to see a lot of it already. And the fact that it's now everybody can walk across the parking lot and get to the buildings is gonna be a nice. So, yeah, I will say our contractors are still, it's been great working with them. Like I said, I think, some of the things, for example, and again, this isn't a slam on Curtis, but Curtis not only is who you purchase all your kitchen equipment through, but they're the ones who install it. And so that's been our delay on the fire system is they were 2 to 3 weeks. Well, it looked like they were gonna be a week behind, they ended up 3 weeks behind in the installation. And then this fan doesn't work. And so then that throws it where they had to order a part and have it drop ship. So we still believe we're gonna get there. It's just been pushed out a little more than we wanted. It to
Yeah,
be.
that's right up to the buzzer.
Yes. Yes. And I think our project manager Brent today said, well, I know I'll be employed up to the 4th, but I don't meet that deadline, I'll probably be looking for another job. He was joking. So, that being said, if you go through the space, it's phenomenal, right? I mean, was in there today, they've put the soundproof collapsible doors for the music that go into the cafeteria. They've got those upstairs in our dividable special education support room. We've got a lot of furniture being delivered this week. I think 4 semis full of furniture being delivered this week as well. So there's still, and our staff is busy moving the rest of the furniture that was staged from the elementary school out so that we get the chairs and all the stuff that we're using back over to the elementary school as well. So there's just a lot of, I mean, and again, it's just a lot when you're moving an entire school. So we're confident we're gonna get there. It's just still a lot of work to do with 3 weeks to go. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, right up to the buzzer. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Not really much we can do, maybe a friendship circle. All right, board business. So should I read through all these? Or should I just ask that somebody move that we delete these policies? What do you usually do?
Yeah, we just do them as a group, but I did have the question on the deletions and maybe I just didn't. So the OSBA, the last 3 that are OSBA recommendations, the student health, communicable diseases and HIV, HPV and AIDS. Is that because they've been combined into another policy?
And
Is
they're
that
covered under something else.
they are?
Like,
Okay.
Some of them,
So they still exist inside.
some of them we had combined policies that now they've split out with more specificity.
Okay.
Some are irrelevant because of law changes. So it's a variety of reasons, but for these to be deleted, like a lot of the family leave ARs, they recommended because we have that all in policy under the we use a third-party provider, and if you use a third-party provider, you're using their forms anyway, so they don't recommend to use any of the forms that they have. So there's a variety of reasons why, but it's all either through legal recommendation or OSBA based on the separation of policy or it's supported somewhere else.
So is American Fidelity that third party?
Yes.
Is okay. I got you. All right. I was just a little confused, but yeah,
I came in early for the same.
same thing. Like
There's a lot, and again,
Amy, like,
just to explain to everybody, so what you're seeing today was the ability for us over the summer to really get caught up. So prior to Amy, we had Jane for a short time, and before that, we had Lynn for a short time, and we also jumped to a new website. And so the combination of trying to get through all of our policy with 3 different people and move to a new platform where things didn't get updated, even though the board had approved an update, it didn't quite, the draft didn't make it onto the web page and get uploaded. So Amy's tremendous research went through and found everywhere there was something that was missing, or there was a new slight change to the language, even though it had been updated. So this gets us with policy completely up to date through the next OSBA recommendation, which will be in August.
Right.
Late, it comes out late August, right? So
Next
this,
August.
no,
this
it'll be later this month, so,
Okay.
but it won't be this massive because this is a combination of all those circumstances. The April OSB update was pretty extensive because we came out of the short session for the legislation. So it was all based on those policy changes. There was a pretty good list. And it's all the stuff that we caught through the system of, there was a board meeting here, this one wasn't recommend, there was a lot of things not being uploaded that we just wanted to make sure got in front of the board. And that's why there's a bunch of readoptions, right? Because there's really not a change, but just want to make sure that someone doesn't think we're trying to pull a fast one with getting a policy on that didn't come through the board.
Got it. Well, with that being said, I would make a move that we delete the policies and ARs as presented here as a group, starting with GCBDA and ending with JHCCA.
I'll second that.
Second it.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Oh, I thought you were saying something.
No, I tried to second it, but I think
Edie's
EDB.
fast. It's faster than routed.
Okay, then we have the adoption policies, EDC through.
I just have a question
Dale.
on some of the adoption. Why are there so many that are, like it says, duplicate policies, and they look almost identical, all of them?
They should be identical. So that was part of the problem that we caught is some of them. The board adopted, and so we found the one that was updated, one of them was updated, but the other one wasn't in the adoption, right? And so they should be the same. And so again, we're just trying to be as transparent as possible to make sure that all policies match when they were duplicates, but we were finding ones that were said they were duplicates. But when you went to, for example, when you went to EDC, it said one thing, and when you went to KGF, it was different. They weren't the same, and they should have been the same because they're duplicates. And so it's just a part of that cleanup. That's,
Okay.
and we could find history of the board approving them. That's why they're readoptions.
Got it.
Well, I'll move then that we adopt and re-adopt policies and ARs from, starting with EDC/KGF, going to KL-AR1, public complaint procedure revised.
For a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
and we get some nighttime reading for.
Yeah.
You have a lot of.
Yeah.
readings.
Yeah, awesome. How many days is this? I could.
Might
fall
be
asleep to
one a
this
day,
and then
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have lots of first readings. And do we need to know anything about these? In
Again,
advance?
most of these, there's some that you can see the OSBA recommendations. Most of these are because of changes in the law that came through the short sessions or new laws. You know, I would say a couple things just to be aware of. There's some thought that the Supreme Court may be hearing a case on Title IX, which could impact a lot of that as we move forward. You know, we're in the middle of doing Title IX trainings leading up to the school year starting, and some people, even the legal counsel who's giving the trainings are like, here's what it is now. Because we don't know, I think it might have been on the docket for September to be heard in the Supreme Court. Whether it actually does or they decide to kick it out, I will wait to be seen. But a lot of people are thinking there'll be some changes in Title IX based on what's coming through. A lot of the new Title IX were written when the Biden administration came in, so that's what this training is mainly about, and that's I think what some of the challenges are about. So we'll see where that comes, but we're gonna follow what's the law right now until we get something new that comes through. So
Just a clarification question. What is AR?
An AR is an administrative regulation, so typically by policy. By our policy, typically, we don't bring ARs to the board unless usually it's a complaint policy or a harassment policy, just so the board's aware of it. Typically, ARs are written and executed. It's how we execute policy and the protocols to do that, and typically I work with the administrators and legal counsel, and we create those protocols and have them in place so that they're consistent and we process things the same way. Like, for example, our facility use agreement, that's an AR, right? So we can change fees, look at that, change the structure of our facility use agreements. That doesn't necessarily come to the board. It's something that we can do behind the scenes and put in place.
Thank you.
I think the only thing that I would do before we move into the next stuff is, just to draw attention, I think it was one of the OSBA articles that came out. If, you know, they did a new, rush on quality education model, if you were paying attention to that. So they just did a new study and they determined that to have schools get funded under the quality education model would be 13.5 billion was what they're estimating. Our last biennium, we got 10.2 billion. If you are also looking at it, we're anticipating in the 25-27 biennium statewide, about a $700 million hit in the PERS, increased expense in PERS costs across the whole state school fund. And then the governor has clarified some rearticulation of the current service level and what that means, and that hopefully will help districts out. And that's about a $500 million, should be about a $500 million ad. So really, to get where we should be, it's not more money, but it's good to get where we should be. The next biennium, we should be funded at 11.5 billion. Right? That's if you take the appropriate calculation of the current service level that the governor's talking about and add that to the additional PERS debt that we're going to be in to support the current employees. That's $1.2 billion just to keep us moving forward without reductions. So it's going to be an interesting year rolling into that. Now, if they get us there, then, I mean, right now, we're in a pretty good place in our staffing and where we are. That's good news for us. If we don't, and or we lose a bunch of kids, those are two things that will impact us looking ahead. So just to make you guys aware of a couple of budget challenges down the road, we negotiate with both groups this year, right? So we're good this year, but in the spring, when the governor's projecting a budget, before we even know what the budget is, which is the fund that we get to go through, I look at Jonathan because it's always the guessing game. When we think it's going to come in here, what does that mean for both of us? So we'll be negotiating both contracts this spring. And hopefully we'll have some better information about what the projection is. Usually by January or February, we get some voice from the governor about what that state school fund should look like, and we can start kind of working together to plan on that. So, so anyway, just a couple of things to put out in front if you weren't paying attention to those OSBA things over the summer. There's a couple of, I mean, if they get us moving towards QEM, we'll be in good shape. If they don't, there'll be some challenges.
Yeah.
So, there we go.
Okay. Thank you. So for consent agenda, we have organizational, I can't even talk anymore. Organizational board meeting minutes. Do we want to, should I just read all these off and we can improve it as a group or one by one?
I think we can
Do it as a group.
handle them as package.
Okay,
And I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I would second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
But you want to do it as a package, so we only did the consent agenda, but we can do all the people,
Okay,
right?
the consent agenda is all
Separate.
Is all that.
Oh, it is all that. Okay, so we have a couple new teachers and
Yep.
And a renewed teacher.
in a.
And yeah, Julie Patton's back. Yeah.
we did, so in case there's a question asked, which we, I think advertise this, I think pretty well with their staff. So Jana Giles is a assistant principal at the elementary school, so our Title I funding went up. Brittany Brown has reduced to half-time and she was funded out of Title as well. So we had enough money to look at how do we improve behavior supports at the elementary school and, move forward with getting an assistant principal or support with, you know, a brand new building, gonna be our biggest building as far as kids in it. So that extra support is gonna be good. And Jana's, you know, hitting the ground running. She's been here this past week working and getting to know the new building and getting in touch with Joan and systems. And so.
Very cool.
Actually I think we had a really good hiring year. With all the folks that we have, we still have a couple, I think Tim had a late resignation, which is Raquel Cobian. So that position's still open, so we have to hire a middle school social studies position, it closes on the 13th. We had a sped opening, but we might restructure that into a couple of IA supports that we didn't fill for the elementary. So we have one or two things that we're still working on as we close out this time of year, but from where we are, we're in a really good position and got some good people coming on board.
Great.
So,
Okay, announcements. August 21st, board work session goals. Does everyone have that on the calendar? Because I don't. September 4th, regular board meeting. Both of those are at 6 p.m. Anyone have anything else to add before we make it a 32-minute
God, you're setting a high bar.
board meeting?
I should have told you, don't start out like this.
We all good?
Nice job. Nice meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
Excellent.
I think though, Don Hedrick, I think it might have been 27 minutes. I think it might have been the fellow. Maybe.